I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but while y'all were chatting and I went and I came back and I sat back down, I kind of hopped up into my chair.
Now your feet don't touch the ground.
Well, that's because now that I have the pillows in my chair for the proper headspace, I really can't flat foot my chair right now. Like I got toes.
Come on. I feel
100%.
like I'm sitting on a child's go-kart in a regular office
Well,
chair.
you
Your feet
also
ain't
have way
touching
too
the
much
ground?
headspace. You have
Do
way
I?
too much headspace. Yeah.
Do I really? Is it a thing?
Think tall. There, that's better. There you go. That's it.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, and you're wearing your Strokers hoodie. We didn't even know that until you sat upright.
Of course. Always.
You're not allowed to wear a Strokers hoodie unless you've got a 16-foot trailer. Do you?
Zub posted a picture of his lowboy today, and I posted a picture of my 40-foot fifth wheel in the comments. So I think qualifies as at least a 16-foot trailer with a bathroom.
I think we have to put them in the appropriate groups with the hashtag. I mean,
a couple air conditioners, couple fridges, television.
You have a trailer with multiple fridges?
Yeah, it's got inside fridge and outside fridge. It's got an island in it. Nice faucet. Oh, yeah. Fireplace. It's got a fireplace and a furnace. Yeah.
Hey, Mike.
I literally have like a 16-foot trailer, like just a dual axle 16-foot trailer that I use to like pull shit around on. I don't have big boy trailers like what y'all have. I just have what he talked about 15-year-olds in Arkansas buy.
Well, my kids like camping, and I like to not have to like do the whole tent thing and
set up tents and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got auto level. It's the greatest. I didn't know it was a feature until I bought a nice one, but you unhook it from the truck, you open the little side door and you hit a button and it levels itself. And then it's got auto reconnect. So like instead of jacking the fifth wheel all around and sweating your balls off in August and you're cranking this thing all around, you hit auto reconnect and it goes to the height that you set the landing gear at to disconnect from the trailer.
Wow.
It's pretty tits.
That's some highfalutin shit right there, man.
It's probably expensive to fix when it breaks, but I know a guy.
Evidently charging for Diag works.
Yeah, it turns out. ain't a bad way to live, Mike.
I feel like at this point we should probably introduce ourselves. I think everyone knows Brian and I. Hey, Jolly Old Jew, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh,
what kind of anti-Semitic shit is that, you backward-ass country bumpkin? Really? Is that the best you can do?
I feel like it was complimentary. I called you Jolly.
You called me, which means you don't know me very well, does it? God damn.
He does have the beard going.
Really. Yeah, it's Dutch. Hello, everybody. Nobody cares. All right. So, yeah, there you go.
What's up, Dutch? How are you today, sir?
I'm peachy. What the hell, over? Every day above ground's a good day.
For if there's anyone who's listening, and look, everybody knows who Dutch is, right? Let's not kid ourselves. But if there's anyone who's listening who has been living under a rock for the last decade or three, give or take, when did you first get on IATN?
Holy crap! 90s,
early 90s.
Yeah, early to mid 90s. Yeah.
Back when all the email addresses were AOL.
I got thrown off of there twice.
That was awesome.
It's true. Yeah, twice. Yep. And I'm like,
Dutch has been a personality
receiver of the band Hammer.
Personality in our circles for a little while.
Yeah.
And also he is very effective at telling me how very wrong I am very frequently. And so I wanted to have you on to have an opportunity to tell Brian and I both how we're both wrong in so many different ways. I have at hand several different scenarios that I'd like to run by you so that you can tell us how both of us are unethical,
scumbags,
incorrect, or just unintelligent. One or the other.
Or a combination of the three.
I think that's really grossly overstated. I don't think that you guys are really unethical in any stretch of the imagination. Otherwise, I wouldn't associate with you. I just think that sometimes your moral compass goes askew. And when that happens, I step in to let you know that you're being a fucktard. So That's pretty much about it. Once that happens, and then you straighten yourself up. We call that in aviation a mid-course correction. You get that mid-course correction going on, and you can proceed to your destination in an uneventful manner until you screw up again. That's it.
I feel like the goal should be to reach your destination in an uneventful manner every day, right?
Yeah, that should be. Len Morgan, who's a very famous
Wrong
aviation,
industry, bucko.
said that flying was countless hours of boredom punctuated by moments of sheer terror. And that's pretty much the way you want to run your career here. I mean, you don't want to get heart-pounding excitement because you found that one of your techs left the lug nuts loose, and now it came off of the vehicle and hit the bus full of blind children driven by the nun. I mean, that's not the way you want to start your day.
Well, if the wheel's got to come off and hit someone, I'd rather it be the bus full of blind children driven by the nuns, because they don't have good attorneys. Like if it was hit by if it hit Dutch, we'd be fucked, because he's got good attorneys.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't want it to hit a bus full of New York Yankees, is what you're saying.
Yeah, because that the Catholic Church has no money, right? Yeah,
yeah, right,
they can't afford decent attorneys.
It'd be Car Fix by Catholic Charities.
Right.
St. Mother's Sisterhood of Car Fix.
Yeah, Our Lady of Perpetual Donation. Bring your car on down.
Yeah, for free diag.
For free diag.
Hey, everybody. I wanted to take a minute to tell you about the coaching organization I've been involved with for, over 20 years now, Elite. Elite Worldwide, they don't give you a one-size-fits-all solution. They tailor the coaching specifically to you and your shop. They pair you with an experienced coach who is either a current or a former shop owner, and they turn strategies into actual action and accountability and results. Whether it's improving your service advisor's sales, growing your shop, growing to multiple locations, they really have you covered. They've got training for all of those things. Clients of Elite really see results: higher profits, stronger teams, a better work-life balance. If you're ready to take the next step, visit eliteworldwide.com to schedule your discovery session. That's eliteworldwide.com to start working on your business rather than in it. Tell them that you heard about them on Confessions of a Shop Owner, so that I get a pat on the back or maybe a box of chocolates or something. That would be awesome. Thanks. All right. So that does take me back to a conversation that we had in the messenger in the last 48 hours or so, and I posted in one of the groups a question that was born from that, and it got like 130 comments. And you ever have one of those posts where the comments get so out of control that you don't even keep up with the comments anymore, and you just whatever.
Yeah.
And it was let's say there's a hypothetical scenario where a client comes to you and they've had their car at 3 other shops, and they've spent $3,000 on Diagnostics or shotgun repairs or whatever else, and it's still a problem. Comes to you, and you do whatever your diagnostic process is. Like for me, I don't charge for the initial diagnostic, right? But I know that that's not super popular. But let's say that you start off at 1 hour, you start off at 5 hours, whatever it might be. That's what you got approval for. You find the problem in 30 minutes. It's a bad ground. You fix it, and it solves the problem. Now, at this point, the customer has spent over $3,000 to reach a final repair. What was the value of your time and effort, and what should you charge the customer?
You asking me, or are you talking to Brian?
You're asking. So me first. So
I'll beat by Dutch first.
Well, I don't know if I said I would charge $3,001. I don't know if I said that.
We know who said that.
We know who said that in that chat group. Yeah.
Yeah.
I said, wouldn't the repair be worth $3,001?
No.
Dutch says no.
No, absolutely not.
Is it worth $2,999?
No. What's your hourly rate for Diag? If you
so therein lies the question. And so me asking that question in the group was a trap, right? Because I wanted to get the whole spectrum of answers.
Right.
So you had people who said it's whatever your initial diag was plus whatever you charge for repairing the damage that you found, right? The bad ground that you found. And you have others that say, well, you have a really good technician who was able to find that when 3 other maybe good, maybe bad, maybe mediocre technicians were unable to find that. You should charge a premium for that. And so maybe it's worth 2 times whatever it is. And to that, I would say, well, then that's what you should have charged because it's a really good technician. And you have those who say, well, it was a $3,000 repair. They should go get their $3,000 back from the first 3 places, and maybe you charge them $1,500 and they're happy. And to those people, I say, well, what if they had come to you first and not gone to the other 3 shops first? Is it still worth $1,500? Or is it only worth what?
That is a tricky question. Is it
No,
still
not
worth
really.
$1,500? Dutch says not really.
No, it's not. All right, there are 2 issues here, not just one. The first issue is that when the other 2 shops couldn't repair the vehicle, okay, didn't reach a satisfactory conclusion, didn't guarantee the repairs, they should not have charged the customer. Ethically, you don't charge for
100% agree.
Okay, you couldn't fix it, you don't get to charge. I don't care that you put parts into the car, that you pay your technician. That's not my problem. Okay,
Preach on.
Being the consumer. All right, you guys couldn't do that. I'm sorry, as a shop owner, you're going to eat that cost, and you're going to find out why it happened, and you're going to hopefully train so that doesn't happen again. That's what you need to do. They never should have paid the $3,000. Now, it's not my responsibility to make sure that they do what they're supposed to, other people are supposed to do. But my rate is predicated on what I need to be able to provide for my business. And that doesn't change because of somebody else's screw up. So no, there are 2 issues, not one, right? Those who say that they want to charge more are justifying this behavior. And there's a word for it, and it's called consequentialism. Consequentialism is a philosophy essentially that the morality of an action is judged by its outcome. It's okay for me to charge $1,500, $2,000, $2,500, or $3,001 because we were able to do something that somebody else wasn't. I'm sorry, that's not the way it works. That's not ethical.
What if, and this is not realistic, but what if they came to us first and you said, gosh, Miss Jones, this is a really complex problem that you're describing to us. It's going to require our highest level diagnostic technician. And his labor rate or the charge for him to inspect that problem and determine the cause of your issue, we get a retainer of $2,000 to start. And if it becomes more than that, we'll call you.
Okay, what about it?
And they approve it.
Okay.
Say what now?
All right, so you say you got the $2,000 retainer, right? And they approve it. Now he finds it in 30 minutes. Okay, great.
Well, I didn't say what my hourly rate was. I said it's $2,000.
It's not relevant.
It is relevant. It must
You think so?
Yes.
So what is an acceptable hourly rate then for a top 5%er tech?
$4,000 an hour. That's the half hour for $2,000.
$4,000 an hour. Yeah. All the guy's got to do is basically work an hour a week. No. Doesn't work that way. No, it doesn't work that way.
I can provide a realistic scenario that actually has happened.
Hey there. I'm going to tell you about something that has completely transformed how I run my shop, TechMetric. As a 20-year shop owner, outdated systems used to slow us down. Everything was clunky, from check-in to estimate building to customer updates. It all felt just super inefficient. Switching to TechMetric has changed everything. With TechMetric, you get a powerful shop management system that includes DVI, quick and easy estimate building, inventory management, real-time reporting, amazing customer communication, and it's really easy for your employees to learn how to use the software. I'm talking like a one-day learning curve. On top of that, TechMetric has tons of other tools to make you an even better operator. Stuff like integrated payments with buy now, pay later options is a huge asset. Ask me how I know. And recently, they've added a CRM component with their partnership with Shop Genie, which I'm a happy Shop Genie customer already. So I'm super excited about that. Now, obviously, there are a lot of factors at play here, but I want to give you some facts about my business since I made the change to TechMetric. In September of 2020, when I switched to TechMetric, my ARO was $293. In September of 2024, we were $916. That's over 300% growth. Now, I'm not saying that TechMetric created all of that change, but I'm 100% saying that I couldn't have come this far without TechMetric. It's a key factor in our growth and success. If you're ready to level up your shop, TechMetric has everything you need: productivity, revenue, customer experience. Measure up by every measure with TechMetric. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more.
11 or 12-ish BMW 5 Series gets towed in and out of 3 shops, including 2 Euro specialty shops, but you know how that goes. Won't key on. Initial evaluation shows it really won't key on. Powertrain can isn't firing up. No terminal 15 anywhere. The wiper cowl stuff is missing. So the floor is wet, and there's a bunch of dash panels off and some stuff unplugged. After initial inspection,
You got to start at $5,000, right?
4,000 was the number, and $4,000 was approved. We put, what did we put in it? A Reifendruck, a tire pressure module. I went full German there for a second. I called it a Reifendruck. A tire pressure.
That's just showing off.
Yeah,
When you said it in
RDC.
German.
Yeah, Reifendruck. Reifen is tire, druck is pressure. Get cultured, Mike. Anyways,
you're killing the pronunciation, but I'm not saying nothing. Go ahead.
I don't care. I'm not German.
You have to sound more angry.
And then because the wiper cowl was out, we ended up finding that the VTG controller, which is the transfer case controller that's in the passenger floor, was swimming. So we fixed that, put wiper cowl on it, and we did not have, I mean, if you add up the time and material, we didn't have $4,000 worth of time and material into it. But like, at what point, I mean, so I feel like on this stuff, sometimes people speak out of both sides of their mouth. They'll say, well, I don't want to be that shop. I want to do the 95% and I'll ship the 5 to somebody else. But then they'll be like, oh, well, that wasn't very fair what he charged. Well, you just said the juice ain't worth the squeeze on those 5% of cars, right? Right? How many times have we heard it? Being the hero doesn't pay. And then somebody goes, well, if I'm going to freaking screw with this car for half a day, and I'm going to put $700 worth of parts in it, I'm going to charge $4,000. I don't know what to tell you. Right? And is it really wrong? That's the question, right? Is it really wrong to charge,
If there's no one else in the marketplace who can fix it, and you can fix it, and the customer agrees to that price, is it wrong?
And I'll point something out. I know one shop 20 minutes south of us and one shop 30 minutes south of us that can fix that car, but they won't. If you call there and you say, I have this car, it's been dragged out of 3 shops, there's some stuff taken apart, I'm not your guy. That's what they're going to say. And both those guys, I'll guarantee you, them 2 guys can fix that car.
They're just going to say thanks, no thanks.
Yeah, they're just going to say, juice ain't worth the squeeze. I don't want to get involved. So is it unethical to charge that $4,000 retainer and it comes out at you spent $3,100 and you keep the extra?
I don't know if this is a rhetorical question or not.
I'm waiting to get blasted. I'm ready. Let me have it if you think so.
If you quote a $4,000 preliminary estimate, right? I need good faith deposit of $4,000. What you're telling that
That's
person,
a nice way to say it.
Right? Because I don't know how long this is going to take, and I'd rather get this money pre-approved so that I don't have to call you several times during the course of the day or the days, plural, that it takes for me to evaluate this vehicle. So they give you the pre-authorization for X amount of dollars. Okay? So in your mind, you have budgeted a certain amount of time to complete that repair, or to get to the point where you know what the solution to the problem is going to be, right? Because you said, I'm
Yep.
spending $4,000, and based on the rate, we're going to make something up, of $400 an hour, because I am the super special tech. That's what I am going. And you're doing this to yourself. You're not saying it in
And
front of them,
and a lot of times I'm not going to be selling a lot of parts on that repair. I'm going to be doing a
right?
lot
So
more
that's the
laboring than I am putting parts in.
right. So you want to keep your gross profit dollars per hour up to where you need it to be. All right, because you're not selling a lot of parts on this thing. We have the potential for
Mhm.
not selling a lot of parts on this thing. So if you
Sure.
allotted yourself 10 hours and you find the solution to this problem and get the car going again in 2000, you refund them the difference.
Now let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Let me ask you this.
Great news. We're able to save you money. Because of our expertise, we were able to do this job that others couldn't.
Okay. Because of my expertise, I can put a 6.7 long block in an F350 that pays 26 hours. I can install that motor 14 hours, pushed in, pulled out.
Mhm.
Do I refund them the difference between 14 and 26 hours when I do that job?
That's an eternal question that is in this business, is what do you want to do insofar as ethics? Are you charging per hour or per job? If you're telling the person that you're charging them per job, then it doesn't matter. If you could do an I Dream of Genie and do that, then you're going to charge them that, right? Or are you
But I
doing
mean,
it per hour?
certainly on nut and bolt repairs, if we do them faster than the book time, right? If we're going to pull the book out and we're going to go by the book, and
Mhm.
for the record, we don't use a labor multiplier, so it's not the book time times 1.5 or whatever. We don't use one.
Okay.
And I'm not saying it's bad to use one. I'm just saying we don't. So there's no funny business there. If the job pays 26 and it's nuts and bolts, and I get that 26-hour job done in 14 hours, and I tell everybody, nobody says to charge less than 26 hours. But meanwhile, while we're doing diagnostic work, if I take some expertise and I get through some diagnostic work faster than anticipated, we have to refund back to straight time. And that's where I've always had a problem with it.
Well, it's 'cause you have the
That's a
screwed up.
super good argument.
No, it's not really.
Why is it not?
Okay. Because the
Because you should
guide,
give the money back for higher skilled work than you should for nuts and
no,
bolts.
the guide that's being used for labor is essentially arbitrary, because we can have the same
But it's
job.
the accepted standard. It's the accepted standard.
Why, who? Because you're
Arbitrary or
using,
not, it's the accepted standard.
wait a minute, you're using Motor, I'm using Mitchell, somebody else is using All Data, and we all have three different. So what are you going to do?
They're all over 20 hours, and I'm going to do all of them in 12.
You're going to do all of them in 12. Three of them you're going to do in 12 hours.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's realistic though. It's realistic. Even right down
So-
to ball joints. When I'd put uppers and lowers in an F250 and it pays 6.5 hours to do upper and lower ball joints, and I bang it out in 2.5, ain't nobody refunding a customer 4 hours because the guy's got $1,000 snap-on ball joint press and some hustle, and he's banging the ball joints in the thing.
Well, I don't
And
think,
why and if you did refund them, then you are teaching that technician that they make more money when they are slower.
it depends on how they're paid.
Yeah.
Oh well, yeah. If they're all
If
paid
they're
on,
hourly, it doesn't make a
that's another thing I want to talk about is technician compensation tonight.
Yep.
That was a good segue, but I'm not ready
being
to run
serious,
away.
Dutch. Just respectfully, we've never really discounted the nuts and bolts jobs out of the book time when the technician does it faster. But if we estimate, oh man, this car could take all day and it takes the guys 4 hours, all of a sudden we feel like we owe the customer to only charge them 4 hours for the highest skilled work.
Because what you did was you didn't quote a job, you quoted a range. This could take up to
right.
$4,000. So you didn't quote a job. You didn't say the hard and fast price for this Mrs. Smith is going to be $4,000. You said, I need a deposit of up to or $4,000. Right? You didn't
And then
quote
there's the
100.
potential that you might call back and ask for more.
And then
But
there's
with
the
the ball
potential.
joints, you're not going to call back and ask for more.
You're not calling back and ask for more. Exactly right. You're comparing. You're not comparing two. Say you quoted a price. It's going to take to complete, because the ball joints are known circumstance, right? You know, because you've done 100 of them, how much it's going to take you to knock the ball joints out. You
Sure.
consistently know.
Sure.
So you quote the price that the book says it takes 6 hours. I'm doing it in 2.5. Cool. That's the finite. Okay. Now, if for some reason you run into a problem on that job where it doesn't take you 2.5 anymore, now it takes you more than your 6 for whatever reason. I'm
Mhm.
not okay.
Sure.
What are you doing then? You're going to call the customer up and say, "Oh, by the way, this took. I didn't tell you about this before we began, but because you had this extra layer of corrosion, or because of this, or because of that, or because I didn't discuss this with you, now it's going to cost you more." Or are you going to stand by your word and do it for the amount
And
quoted?
and in both situations, I would have. It was, I'm going to need $4,000 to fix your car. I didn't say up to.
Well, that was
So if I
my
didn't get that car fixed for $4,000, I wasn't calling her back for more. If it took me 6 days and I had $3,100 into it, she was leaving with a fixed car.
okay.
That's how we played it. And that's how we play those jobs. I have another Jeep right now that's similar. It's not a $4,000 retainer, but
Now, when I was doing it at the shop, when we used to get science projects that came in, and that's what we called
I
them,
love that term. Yeah.
from other shops, I started out with a $750 retainer. Okay, this is what the base amount it's going to take for me to begin on this project, and we're going to work up through that. If I could have to continue to do additional testing to isolate the root
Sure.
cause, then I'm going to call you back, and I'm going to wait for you to give me an authorization, and then we'll continue. But that's completely different than saying for $750, I'll fix your car.
Well,
That's the
750 is too
difference.
low. You can't even buy a
No,
couple
I'm just
PCMs
using
for
that.
that, Dutch. I know what you mean. I'm just teasing.
You know,
You
But
even have a good pizza party in place of a raise for that.
freaking
for
750. We were blowing
$750.
750
I don't
on
know where you're
lunch.
going, because that's the pizza here is $28 for pizza, and I don't buy Domino's at that crap. You know, 20. I'm not buying Domino's,
You can
man.
get 3 Domino's for $28.
Yeah, I might as well just put ketchup on the cardboard and eat that. All right, I mean Domino's pizza.
So our official Dutch ruling, we're going to call it the Dutch ruling because that is the standard to which we will all be judged by.
Oh, people
The
are going to
nuts
hate me
and
from the
bolts and the
beginning.
diag.
Are
What's that?
different. Nuts and bolts and diag are two different, very, very, very different things.
But
Especially if
Diag is more challenging and requires a more skilled technician, so therefore it should be
at a different
more
rate.
flexible than nuts and bolts.
At a different rate,
At
yeah,
a different rate per hour.
a different rate per hour, right? The
So how,
technician's going to make
Dutch,
more
can I ask
money.
you this?
No, you can't.
At your shop, how much
You're
different was
asking
your
me anyway.
Diag rate than your repair rate?
I'm sorry, say that again. It's raining, so I can't hear.
What
Okay.
was it at your shop before
Mm-hmm.
you sold? What was the difference in your Diag rate and your repair rate?
Well, it was the difference between time and the rate, depending on whether it was domestic Asian or Euro. Because Euro,
Okay.
we had a higher labor rate on. Okay, so
Yeah.
we were at 174.80 or 178.40. I don't remember for Euro. And then I broke that down into the very first one, the first testing block had to be at 1.5 of that because I based it on a 50-50 split between parts and labor. So that's what the way that I did it, because that was easier at the front counter than doing the 62, 30, 38 the way we used to have it, or whatever the
Yeah.
hell it was. Yeah. Yep. So,
So
and then the
then it would be
second hour went up.
1.5 is this. I'm sorry. Good.
Yeah, and then the second hour went up, and every hour thereafter went up.
So the 1.5 starting block
Mm-hmm.
was 1.5 times your rate to the customer and 1 hour to the technician, or
No, you got 1.5.
so then the rate was 170, whatever it was.
The
Right?
rate was
What was your
170
what was
plus.
your
I'd have
What
to
was
do the
your
math.
Euro repair rate for the ball joints on that Euro? What was the rate?
Well, no, it was 170 times 1.5 was the rate that they were getting paid. He was getting paid an hour and a half on that block, even though that block
And you were charging 250 something for
well
that
175.
hourly.
So yeah, almost $300. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then the second tier went up because he got more money. That was the whole point, was to reward that. It didn't make sense for me to penalize achievement. Does that make sense? If
Yeah.
the guy could do
Certainly.
the work, I don't want to penalize achievement for that. So if you're doing work that's more difficult, I want you to be better rewarded because of it. That's
Same,
the
man.
way.
That's why I charge
Absolutely.
$4,000.
Well, that's because you're a thief.
Dutch and I are
Right.
doing the same thing. We're taking different roads to get there.
You know, so
This ain't that much different.
basically
all
that's
right.
that's what
So
it is. Go ahead.
I want to go back and talk about when I break a plug off in a head doing a job,
Mhm.
and
Oh my gosh.
if I hammer the broken part of the plug down into the cylinder, can I then turn the motor over to try to grind up the porcelain and spit it out of the exhaust and sell the customer a motor if it damages it? Is that something that we can do?
Did you ever see that post, Dutch?
No, I
So
can tell you a
I
very
will
funny story
I'll
about a pencil, but yeah, no.
I'll do a little bit more detail. The guy's working on a Honda Odyssey, right? The ones that follow the plugs out. Goes to change the plugs. One of the rear plugs doesn't come out. Instead of stopping and calling the customer, he decides to break it off instead. And when he breaks it off, the porcelain falls in the hole. And he can't get the porcelain out of the hole. So instead of pulling the head, he still hasn't called the customer yet. Can't get out of the hole. So instead of calling the customer, he decides to use the starter motor to crush the porcelain up a bunch of times. And then he wants the customer to split the cost of repairs to the engine with him after he's done all this. I don't
And he
think we
posted
really
it
need.
in the
And he
group.
posted it, and I don't think we really need Dutch's ethical and moral compass for this one. I think the answer was pretty obvious. Like, why didn't you call the customer when the plug wouldn't move?
Really, what kind of
Like,
retard
what is
They were
your
like-
problem?
before you do that? What kind of fucking retard do you got to be before you think that's appropriate? What kind of lying, cheating piece of shit do you got to be before you think that fucking is? Are you out of your goddamn mind? All right.
I don't think it was satire.
I'm going to tell you a story about a pencil. Okay, a long time ago in a land far, far away, when somebody you know had hair. Okay, and he was just starting out. He had to do a job on an engine, and he remembered from his high school shop days that if you wanted to find top dead center on a Chevy 350, what you used to do was take a pencil, and you would drop a pencil inside the engine in the combustion chamber, and you would rotate it by
I'm
hand,
laughing
and you
because I
would
know where it's
watch
going.
the pencil rise and fall, and then when you knew that it was on the apex, you knew that it would be top dead center. Now, this never failed him when he was working on the 1843657.2s that he loved. That was a firing order for a Chevrolet, the old Chevrolet, Mike, years ago. Okay, years and years ago.
And small block Dodge.
Except there's a little bit of a difference in the small block Dodge. And that is that when you drop the pencil in there, there's this thing called valves. So you drop the pencil in and you take oh my God, I can't believe I'm admitting this. It wasn't me. You take your long-handled ratchet and you begin to rotate the engine, waiting for the pencil to rise. But it gets stiff. And you're like, that doesn't make sense. So you back it up.
And certainly don't go backwards. Oh, you did back it up. You backed it up.
I went backwards just a little bit. Not me, somebody else. Went backwards a little bit. And this time now using the additional leverage of having the handle at the higher height, you push it down.
Oh, he gives her the sauce this time.
Give her the sauce, and the top of the pencil makes a very nice pirouette and rolls right off the head, and the bottom of the pencil with the eraser in it goes right inside the combustion chamber. I look at the guy who it's renting the shop from, and I go, "Holy shit." He said, "Hang on." He goes over to the edge of the bay, is holding himself and literally pisses his pants. Has to call his wife Sue to come over and bring a set of trousers because he's pissed his pants laughing so hard. Yeah, I looked at him and I said, "Tim, what do I do now?" And he goes, "Well, you could try to run it and see what happens." And he just laughs his ass off. I'm like, so that head came off, and that was an expensive lesson. Yeah, I remember.
And you certainly didn't charge the customer, right?
No.
Obviously.
No,
yeah, right.
No, really. And when it come down to it, I told him what I did and was hoping that I wouldn't have to blow him. Really, I mean, that was, or get my wife to do it or something. I mean, this was, oh my God, no, this was horrible.
So situation 2, there's another one that was posted within a day.
They were like back to back in the same day.
Back to back, poor decision making. Customer brings a Volkswagen TDI in. They want the timing belt maintenance done, and they do want the water pump replaced, but they do not want to pay to have the tensioner replaced.
What kind of shit is that?
Brand X decides to put a timing belt on and a water pump and abide by the customer's decision because the customer is so smart they did it themselves.
They document that the customer declined it on the repair order.
Yes, they documented the customer declined the tensioner. On the test drive, it launches the timing belt and starts banging shit together in the engine.
I got to spend more time on Facebook. I'll tell you that because
it's so magical. You will feel so good about yourself when you're having a bad day. When you're like, man, today is the day. I would F up a free lunch today. I would F up a free lunch. You go on Facebook, you'd be like, I got this. This ain't my screw ups ain't even that bad. My screw ups are cheeky and harmless.
So did this person erroneously believe that because they documented it, that they were not responsible?
Yes, they did.
Really?
They wanted to know how best to charge the customer for a motor.
For a used, and where to source a used engine.
Takes all time. So did he call Todd Hayes and ask him?
Oh, jeez.
Oh my God. That was just unsolicited violence. That was unnecessary, uncalled for.
No, really, you're objecting, but you're laughing. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't say it wasn't funny.
Yeah. Nobody said it wasn't funny.
You could have said Carfix. You could have said Lucas. You could have said any number of things there.
Yeah. No.
Oh my gosh. That was a good one. So yeah, these are the real things that happen, and which makes me feel good about my slightly unethical retainer. According to you, I'm not crushing people's spark plugs with their starter motor and charging them for it.
It's there's an old expression, right? It ain't what you say, it's how you say it. So as long as you give people the opportunity, you respect their autonomy, you tell them what the plan is, you give them the opportunity to make that choice free of any pressure at all, then you've done your job, and you can then go about your business ethically, as long as you've explained all of the consequences, the potential consequences, to the very best of your ability to them. That's it. But that doesn't absolve you of the responsibility of acting in a professional manner when you're doing a repair.
And making sure we put the timing tensioner in.
Right. Now, if it was an oversight and the guy was saying, okay, look, we got busy and we screwed up and I assume responsibility for it. Okay, then the remedy for that is completely different. All right. Ultimately,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We call those liability dollars.
Yeah. Basically,
it is what it is.
That's the reason you're making money. You got money back in the bank, and is that wait a minute. That's not the beer. Was that bourbon?
That had ice in it. I don't think Mike puts ice in it.
This is West Bottoms Whiskey Company, American blended malt whiskey, proudly made in Kansas City, Missouri. This was given to me by Carrie Lynn Rodenberg of Turnkey Auto Marketing last week when I saw her in Dallas at the Elite Ignite 2025 event. She and Joe Flammer gave me this. They wanted me to have some good Kansas City whiskey, and so I am partaking tonight. Thank you, Carrie Lynn and Joe.
She's a sweetie. She really is.
Yeah. Yes, she's awesome. Also, a sponsor of the podcast. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Turnkey Marketing.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Super excited. We get all the best people, man.
We're special, Dutch.
Yeah, you're special.
That's what my mom used to tell me.
That's what my mom used to tell me. Yeah, that's
Mike.
The best software, the best marketers, the best coaches. We got it all, man.
We got everything. Mike, what's your next ethical quandary for Dutch?
Let me pull up my show notes over here.
Oh, he's got a list.
Got show notes. Excuse me, Mr. Fancy Pants.
So you gave me the perfect segue 20 minutes ago, and I didn't take advantage of it because I felt like we still had some steam in this. But we talked about it depends on how the technician is paid, right? Had a conversation last week in Dallas, actually, about Harrison Rusk, who's got 4 shops in Houston. He's a close personal friend. He made the statement that unspoken expectations are premeditated. What was it? Premeditated resentment. Unspoken expectations are premeditated resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And that came from a conversation about how I believe that there's a spectrum of technician pay plans, from flat rate with no guarantee, which passes all of the risk off to the technician, assuming you have enough base space that it doesn't matter if a technician is non-productive. It passes 100% of the risk off to the technician, all the way to like straight salary, which passes the risk off to the shop owner, right? And there's a myriad in between. And on the flat rate side, it's just as long as you get enough bays, it doesn't matter if he produces or not because it doesn't cost you anything. To the salary side, and we're talking about the minimum level of acceptable performance across that whole area and communicating it clearly. And I've got flat rate individuals with no guarantee that are just driven and they want to just grind it out. And I've got flat rate with a guarantee, and I've got hourly, I've got salary with a bonus, and I've got pure salary in my organization. Because I've always said, however you want to be paid is how I'm going to pay you if I want you to be part of the team. But there's going to be a variable level of expectation. And so the point that was made was every pay plan requires management. You either have to manage ethics, because flat rate requires you to manage ethics. If you're not careful, because you don't know.
If you're not careful.
Depending on the size of your organization, like if it's a 4-man shop, you know everybody like the back of your hand, right? And you don't let anybody who's unethical in there. But if you got 30 technicians, you don't know all of their hearts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to manage ethics, or you have to manage effort. Because if they're salary and they're lazy, then you have to manage effort, right? So
they're lazy, he says.
Well, I mean, my salary guys are not lazy, so I don't have that issue.
I just get to the shop in the morning and walk around and clap. Pretty much.
You just be a cheerleader. Yeah, that's all you got to do is just clap and yell
cheerleading, little shoulder rubs, whatever they
pizza. Need. Yeah,
definitely. But we did have pizza this week. We did.
Who was it that posted about pumping waste oil for their heater and finding like pizza floating in the waste oil tank?
No way. That was satire. Was that real? Do you think?
It was on one of the groups. I didn't see it. It was on one of the groups. They were talking about how funny it was. I think it might have been one of Josh Coombs's posts talking about buying a heater for his shop, or maybe he was commenting on that thread.
Oh my gosh!
And they were talking about how all the the techs were laughing because I got to pull it. Okay, so different.
Was that the thread where the guy said, "If you want heat this week, you need to do more oil changes"?
It feels like it was the same. I had a guy.
Freaking scumbag.
I'm worried about how much of this that I can share because it might be too easily identifiable. This is a
Through
text thread. No, you got to be careful. I got to scroll back a few days, but essentially, talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to find it was too good. I can't get it wrong. I gotta just read it to you.
So Dutch,
Yes, sir.
I don't know what Mike was going to say, but this is where I'll talk again. So now we've talked about the nuts and bolts. We've talked about the diagnostic, and the nuts and bolts I had based on straight time. A lot of shops are taking that book time and they're using labor multipliers, and some of them have increasing or decreasing labor multipliers depending on the situation. Like, for example, the first hours by 1.5, second hours by 1.25, third hours 1.25, fourth hours 1. I never understood the flat across the board labor multiplier no matter what car you're working on. We've never done that. We take, for nuts and bolts, we take our the job we're doing and we multiply those hours by our labor rate, and that's what the labor charge is on the job, with no multiplier.
You didn't use any multiplier at all?
No.
Interesting.
No. If the job pays 10 hours and our labor rate's 148, then the bill is 1480 labor, right?
Okay.
Pretty simple. Pretty simple. So
what did you do when you ran into problems like rusted fasteners or
this is
brake
Buffalo,
lines?
New York, baby. If you can't make time on rusty cars, you need to move south.
Well, but I mean, I get it,
Gas
right?
axe.
And that's what
you get the gas axe out and you cut the bolts off and you keep on trucking. It's no problem.
But like the trope is that the labor guide was written on how to replace that part on that car when it was new. Pull it in, rack it up, pull the bolts, replace the part, put it back together, back it out. So you should have a labor multiplier if you're in the Rust Belt and you're dealing on vehicles that are more than a couple of years old, right?
That's fair enough. I'm just trying to find out why that's acceptable and charging $4,000 fix a car isn't.
Well, think how many more boats or airplanes you would have by now if you had been doing it that way.
All right, so there's
man,
Mike, there's a term for what he's doing. All right, and I just want you to know, it's called perseveration.
Hold on, I'm putting my seatbelt on.
Okay,
is it obfuscating?
No, it's perseveration. He's fixated on one thing. All right, this is what happens. Now, many of you guys know
I have that effect on people.
That this is something that happens. Like with my son is challenged, obviously with me being his father, it's readily explainable, but so he can focus on one thing and he dwells on it. So, and that's called perseveration. So basically,
is this similar to the white dirt situation? Is that what you're saying?
So at
this is very similar to the white dirt situation.
He's revealing much about his personality that perhaps we hadn't considered before when he perseverates.
Dutch is saying I'm on the spectrum, is what he's saying.
You're flat in it. You're up to your neck.
Right down the center.
Top of the bell curve, baby.
So the argument for the labor multiplier is we're working on cars that aren't brand new in the factory, right?
Yep.
Now, we don't see consistent labor multipliers. Some shops have a flat labor multiplier no matter how many hours it is. Some shops, I was talking to a guy at a industry event one time. His first hour is 2 hours, his second hour is an hour and a half, and his third hour is an hour on every car he works on, because his average labor hours per RO is like 3.5 or something like that. Yeah,
I never heard of that before in my life.
Well, he was from Pennsylvania. What can I say? That's
looking at you, Brett Fadley.
It was not him. It was at the event he runs, but it was not him. Oh, this guy's talking about working on Porsches for $120 an hour, and I'm like, I don't really think that makes a lot of sense. And then he explained his labor rate, and I'm like, oh, you're working on Porsches for $240 an hour, and then a little bit for $200 an hour, and then 175 an hour the third hour. That makes a little bit more sense. I can understand that.
Seems
But
like
yet
he's
we're in
using that
another.
as an excuse to make it more palatable to potential customers who ask him what his labor rate is.
It
And he
seems
says, "Oh,
shady. It seems
yeah,
like you're posting a labor rate on the wall,
it's misleading.
and
It's misleading
right.
if that's the case. If
So
that's his aim.
when you have a labor rate sign on the wall, did you ever have your labor rate on the wall, Dutch? Did
No,
they
not
require you to do
required
that in New York State?
Yeah,
Okay.
not
In New
required.
York State, they don't require you to post your labor rate. Everybody thinks you're required to. You're not. You are required to post how you calculate your labor. So, you know, as standard rate times flat rate hours, so on and so forth. So from what I'm understanding in New York State, if we were to use a labor multiplier, we would have to say we're using a labor multiplier. And
So,
If every shop in America followed wage and hour laws appropriately,
Mike says just break the law to be less transparent. Gotcha.
I'm just saying that the discussion on pay plans would be very different right now.
Right. So is it misleading to not post your labor rate? Is it misleading to
well, it depends
take
on
the
the
book time and
circumstances.
charge different?
It depends on the circumstances. Every situation can be different. If you're required under law to post your labor rate, then you post it. If you're required under law to post how you arrived, the calculation necessary, then you post it. If you're not required to post it, you're not required to post anything, but a customer wants to know, you tell them because they have the right to know
Okay.
how that is that's it. I mean, I don't hide. I never was of
Sure.
the opinion that I wanted to hide what I was doing, or I had to be afraid of telling people what I was doing for fear of an adverse reaction. I didn't do it. You want to know what I'm charging? This is what I'm charging. This is how I'm doing it. You can either play with, the game my way. You can do business with me or not. And if you don't, that's okay. I understand there are other people that you might be able to be better suited for. I just didn't care.
That's so much more kind and polite than the way that I choose to hear it in my mind, where you're like, this is the way I'm going to do it. And if you don't like it, go fuck yourself.
Well, look, I'm from the Bronx, so I could definitely go into that if I need to. But the fact is that I typically weed out the bottom 20%. I'm not looking for. I'm looking for the value shopper, not the price shopper, right? So,
Agree 100%.
You think it's just the bottom 20%?
Yeah, it's the Pareto principle. It's the bottom 20%. I would divorce 20, the bottom 20% out of the 80-20
I used to think
every year.
I used to think it was higher than 20, but I thought it was higher than 20, and I'm like, I'm going to pay attention to this. And I realized that in our shop, it's honestly not even the bottom 20 because we've spent 15 years weeding people out, right? So it's not even the bottom 20% anymore. We're like,
all right. I want to read this text message to you.
Okay.
This is an individual who works in our industry that I've known for many years. Their shop changed their pay plan recently, and it has effectively made this person take about a $20,000 a year pay cut.
Oof.
Grease the wheels, baby.
Well, it used to be, grease the wheels is exactly right. It used to be it was a team setup, and it's not anymore. And anyway.
Oh, so he sucks.
No, he's a heavy lifter, but in a different capacity.
Gotcha.
So he said, "Hey," I said, "That's how to motivate 101," is what my statement was. And he responded, "Exactly. But hey, we got pizza today for lunch," is their way of saying they appreciate us. After manager name bought a new Raptor and owner bought very expensive vehicle for a 16-year-old child. So it's like manager shows up in a Raptor, owner buys expensive new vehicle for a child. They change their pay plan. Everybody takes a pay cut. Pizza party. I was like, that's a fucking cliche. They just did the exact cliche.
Yeah, but when
It
you
was
look at
amazing.
it and you apply critical thinking, that it doesn't mean anything, right? Because correlation doesn't equal causation on this. It may be that the manager buys a new Raptor and went into hock up to his ass in order to do it, and is just proud of the truck and wants to show
Guaranteed.
it, right? So he's paying 18% interest. I'm making something ridiculous up, okay?
Yeah.
That he did that. It also may be that the daughter, who's 16, got the really good grades, like she said she was going to for the last 4 years, and this is the payoff. You don't know what the
Yeah.
circumstances. Proximity does not indicate relationship, so it's real
And
simple.
at the same time, optics matter and being tone deaf matters.
Yes, optics do matter to those who are weak.
I mean, I'm here to tell you, I don't buy pizza for my crew anymore.
I
I buy barbecue. I buy
Barbecue.
chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get
well,
subs. We'll get
Buffalo
yeah.
pizza and North Carolina pizza are two different things. It's kind of like getting something nice when you get it around here. It's good. It's good stuff. Like people look forward to it. It's not like,
Hey,
oh, another pizza party. They're like, oh, you
I
got
did
Garfalos. They're like,
this week.
awesome.
I
They're
did go
excited.
out and meet with one of my managers and shop foreman, and we went to a pizza place. But we didn't have it at the shop. It was off site, so it was like under the table pizza. It was like secret pizza.
Under the table pizza.
It's secret pizza.
Hello,
Yeah.
Mr. George.
Top secret pizza. Listen, you
How much
can't
you
tell
pay for
anybody
this
about this
pizza?
pizza party. That's awesome. You know,
Anyway.
people spend a lot of time. I've had this conversation with a couple people over the years, and it was before I was actually in charge of anything ever. Actually, it was the last time I had that conversation was when I worked at a flat rate shop. And I think the words that came out of my mouth were, if you worried as much about turning hours as you do about the hours that guy turns, you'd have turned more than he does.
Yeah.
So if sometimes if you worry about
Say it
perfecting your
louder for the people in
skills,
the back.
if you worry about perfecting your skills as much as you're worried about anything else, all of a sudden you're not the manager buying the Raptor, you're the floor employee buying the Raptor. So
And you're not
whatever.
going into debt.
I'm quoting that in the group right now. If you worried more about earning hours,
Everybody's always worried about what's this guy get paid? What's that guy get paid? Blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm just going to work harder so I get paid more than all of them. So I don't really care.
You know what always struck me is really, I mean, knowing what I know about human nature, it makes sense, but it just always perplexed me. The guys that were the weakest, not necessarily the weakest in skills, but the weakest upstairs, not stupid, but just emotionally weak, they would find fault with everything, especially if you dispatch to strengths. So you have one guy who's really, really
Oh
good
gosh.
in
Tell me
doing
about it.
X, right? I mean, this guy's phenomenal.
Yes.
Seldom any
Yeah.
comebacks, does it correctly. You never have to worry about him. He doesn't leave a mess that's not on the floor. I mean, when he does this job, you looking at him and you're just in awe of the professionalism that
The
he
craftsmanship,
and the
the care that
craftsmanship.
he takes to do the job because
Right,
he
right.
likes doing that job. Yep.
So you dispatch to him because he does a really good job and everybody's making. Now, you have somebody else who does an okay job. They're competent, not good. They're competent, but they look and see how many hours that guy said, well, how come I'm not getting that? Well, because shit, he's better than you. He's better than you at that job. That's why he gets that job. That's his strength. And they lose their crap. They absolutely lose. But that's not right. That's not right. I've been here longer. I don't care.
Meanwhile, they couldn't do that job as nice, as efficient, as fast, and as mess free if somebody had a gun to their head.
Yeah, that was
right.
Yep.
It'd be that you give them the same job that they want, and it'd just be a whole shit show with a comeback.
Yeah,
right. But they're worried about this other guy. Oh, we give this guy that job, favoritism, blah blah blah, this, that, and the other thing.
And the one that really gets you is I don't know who's listening to this that used to work for me, but I had techs during my career that were faster than other techs at doing the job. Okay. Literally, I mean, they could knock this stuff out. I deliberately dispatched the job to the guy who took book time or occasionally longer because he didn't have a comeback. Right? If you dispatch to a guy who can knock this stuff out like it's going out of style, but he has to come back and redo the work, or worst case scenario, it's a day off, and now I have to assign that work to somebody else, and I have to pay that guy to do the work.
When the fastest guy in the shop
Told me
has
bananas.
30% of his work show back up in the foreman's bay under internal, it's a real problem.
Yeah.
And the real problem is sometimes that fastest guy doesn't see the big picture, and he's got his chest puffed out because he's the fastest guy in the shop. But when you subtract the 35% of his work that comes back and is dealt with unbilled internal in the shop foreman's bay, he ain't shit.
Yep.
He becomes average at best.
Yeah.
At best. And he makes you look like a dumbass. Yeah. So now, if you're a shop that's spending money on marketing, you're spending, let's say, $5,000 or $10,000 a month on marketing, or whatever the number is. I don't know. We don't do any marketing. I couldn't tell you. Let's imagine it's $10,000 a month you're spending on marketing. You've got this freaking ass wipe taking your marketing and pushing it the opposite direction, right? Because whatever
it's SVP.
Yeah, whatever you want to call him. It drives me nuts.
What did you call
it? It's like Italian ass wipe.
I'm sorry. I just totally derailed you there. You were on a rant. I shouldn't have done that. I got to learn not to interrupt the rants. The rants are good for the clips.
Oh boy. But seriously, you're spending all this money on marketing, and you got this guy he thinks is the fastest in the shop, and he's hurting you the most.
Yep.
Not just is he only average. Let's say it brings him down to everybody else's average. Well, it's really below that because, right? Like at the end of the day, you have to spend marketing dollars to outrun your shortcomings, right?
To overcome whatever the customers he pisses off.
Yep. Yeah, right. So you're spending all this money, and this guy thinks he's the fastest in the shop. Not only is he not the fastest, but once you subtract the marketing you have to use to offset, he's probably the worst guy you got.
Hey guys,
yeah,
this has gone by super quick. This has been so much fun. I really want to do this again. Dutch, just so you know, in the time that we've been having this conversation, you've been called a national treasure. Someone said that we need to protect you at all cost. Someone said that we should put a security detail on you. So we're gonna have you back. You know what we need is we need to get like an all-star cast and just have the greatest hits all at one time. We might reach critical mass and just implode at that point, though.
Well, why don't you do me a favor, right? You want to have some fun? Get me somebody who vigorously disagrees with just about every damn thing that comes out of my mouth. Let me go head-to-head with somebody. That's all I want. Just let me really go head-to-head with somebody.
Who do we get? Now I'm really thinking.
But here's the deal, is that you love arguing.
Yes, I do.
And
you are like the building inspector, Dutch.
The people who are
at some point you realize the guy loves arguing.
The people who are most diametrically opposed to your viewpoint of business and also are argumentative either would get upset and offended and log off and rage quit, or would never take the conversation in the first place.
Pussies.
Well, I was going to say sissy pot pies, but Dutch said it better, I guess.
All right, so I'm gonna let us wrap it up with pussy pot pies, and we'll do this again sometime very soon. I hope.
The opportunity, I really do. At my age, just being able to stay away from the house is a blessing. So, because if you were married to me, you wouldn't want to be around me, really, when it comes down to it.
I'm just proud of you for not having to go to the restroom for over an hour.
Well, how do you know?